This one mistake is undoing all of your progress in a single day. And like 9 out of 10 dog owners are doing it right now without even realizing that they are making their dogs more stressed and less well behaved. So you're trying to do everything right. You're working on calming your dog, you're fixing things in their environment, you're being more consistent, but your dog just keeps getting more anxious, not less. They just behave worse. They don't listen to you. And you're sitting there like, what am I doing wrong? Why is nothing working? Well, I'm about to tell you exactly what's happening. And honestly, this is going to make so much sense once you hear it. So let's jump in. The mistake is this: you're exhausting your dog instead of calming them down. And I know what you're thinking right now. Wait, hold on. I thought a tired dog is a calm dog. Well, that's what everyone says, right? That's what I was taught to. That's what vets tell people. That's what trainers say all the time. But here's the truth: a tired dog is not always a calm dog. An exhausted dog is actually sometimes a stressed dog. And when you're over exercising a dog that's already anxious, you're making their anxiety worse. So let me explain why this happens. When your dog exercises really hard, their body releases cortisol. So that's the stress hormone that we talked about in the last video in this calming your dog series. With a normal dog that's pretty balanced, that cortisol spike is totally fine because it comes back down after they rest. So it's no big deal. But in a dog that already has some anxiety, their cortisol is already elevated, right? So when you add intense exercise on top of that, you're making it spike even higher. And here's when it gets really bad. So if you're doing this every single day, your dog's cortisol never actually comes back down to normal. They're basically living in this constant state of elevated stress hormones. And that creates this whole cycle where they're wired, they can't settle down, and they're super reactive to everything. And you're thinking, they clearly need more exercise. So you give them more exercise and it just keeps getting worse and worse. So there was someone in this community with a border collie, and she was running this dog like 5 miles a day every morning. And she thought she was doing the right thing. Now, border collies are very high energy and they need a job. So I can see she was absolutely right. But her poor dog was a complete mess. She couldn't settle down. She was destroying stuff all over the house. She was barking at literally everything. And the owner was convinced that the dog had just way too much energy and needed more exercise still. So once we had a conversation, she started to decrease this intense running a little bit, and it totally changed everything. So it wasn't an energy problem. It was a stress hormone problem the whole time. So how do you know if you're over-exercising your dog? Here are the signs to watch for. Your dog comes back from exercise and they just can't settle. Like they're still pacing around, they're panting, they're totally wired, and it's not a good tired. They're just overstimulated. Their nervous system is just totally out of whack and it doesn't know how to come back down. You might also see that your dog is more reactive after exercise, not less. So you take them for a big run, you come back home and they're barking at everything, or they're lunging at sounds, or they're totally on edge. That's because their cortisol is through the roof and the whole stress response is in overdrive. Or your dog might crash really hard, but then they wake up anxious. So they sleep for a few hours because they're physically exhausted, but when they wake up, they're right back to that anxious, restless state. So that means they did not get a restful sleep because their cortisol was too high. So here's the really big one. Your dog seems to need more and more exercise to get the same effect. Like you used to run them 2 miles and that was good. They were good for the day. Now you're running them like 5 miles and they're still not calm. So that right there is a sign that you're stuck in that over exercise cycle. So if any of this sounds like your dog, you want to just hold on, take a little survey of how much exercise they're getting and start to pull it back a little, and instead start to use brain games, sniff walks where you let them sniff whatever they want while you're walking, and things that actually exercise their brain, problem solving, puzzle games, because that will tire them out without ramping up their anxiety level. So we want a mixture of physical exercise and mental exercise. All right, so that's mistake number one, over exercising your dog. But there's a second mistake that's just as common and honestly just as damaging. And it has to do with what you're feeding your dog every single day. So in my next video, I'm going to break down the 3 foods that are making your dog's anxiety worse. And I'm going to show you how to check your dog's food bag right now to see if you're literally feeding your dog something that's making them more anxious and not behave as well, or if you are feeding them something that is keeping them calm and healthy. Okay, so click the link in the description or hit the card that just popped up on the screen to watch the next video. It's called The 3 Foods Making Your Dog's Anxiety Worse, and you really need to see this before your dog eats their next meal. All right, I'll see you over there.